organizers of this event, and I hope that you will enjoy this afternoon or this evening's session. You can see on the agenda we've got 3 presentations. We've got the Power BI news from JP Louw. He's a colleague of mine. Sia used to do the news. He's decided to share the love with others. So JP and some other people in my team are going to be rotating that task. So JP, you'll be on shortly. Thank you for that. Then we've got fabric news from Cailin herself. So that's great. Looking forward to that. And then this is actually a request from the user group for this topic. My colleague Vusi is exploring the DAX query view in Power BI. So that came about, in fact, from the January event. We do ask that people fill in a survey. It just helps us improve things. And the person who filled in that survey had said, look, what about this topic? So we thought, well, very good idea. Let's do it. So thank you for that. I will share the link to various things, including the survey shortly. But let me just work through the PowerPoint just quickly. So we're on the introduction section right now. Then there's the agenda. Yeah, I guess there's a bit of a duplication, but there is a little bit about team etiquette, especially since we're on an online only session this month. Please, if you can just mute your audio. If you are keen and comfortable, please put your videos on, though please be aware this is being recorded and we will be putting this on YouTube. So if you feel awkward about that, then obviously just stay, what's the right word, anonymous or quiet. It's up to you. But we obviously do really enjoy interaction and people getting involved. It is a community event, but like I said, it will be on YouTube. We will publish it on the user group site. Okay, and then the survey I'll share with you again at the end, the actual link itself. But just so that you know where we are today, it's 27th of February, second event of the year, online only. Okay, and then 27th of March, 4 weeks time, we're meeting again. We haven't got the agenda tied up yet. Cailin and I will meet next week, but if there are anyone out there who is keen to either propose a topic or volunteer for a topic, we are always eager to get volunteers. I'm telling you, it really is a great way to learn something new by preparing a presentation. It really, really is well worth it. So please do consider volunteering to do a presentation. Like I said, Cailin and I will be putting the agenda together next week. So just get in contact with us and volunteer something. Okay, so that's the introductions. JP, if you are ready, I'm going to stop sharing and you're welcome to take it away with the Power BI news.
Thanks, Sven. I'm just going to share my window. Just say if you can see the screen.
There we go. Yep.
Okay, there you go. Thanks. So it is going to be a quick one this month. There wasn't a lot of updates this month in the news. So it's just, I'm JP Louw, like Sven said, I'm a colleague of him, working at Sador as a BI consultant, and there's my contact details. So the first announcement that we had this month is you should upgrade to the 64-bit version of Power BI because support is going to be stopped after the 30th of June. So to see what current version you have of Power BI, just go to help, click about, and then you're going to see your version here at the bottom. So obviously for security and support purposes, try to update your Power BI desktop to the latest version. And then also, you must update your Power BI version, because if you have Copilot, the preview chat pane, it's not going to work as expected if it's not updated. But the Copilot preview chat pane is dependent on a compatible workspace. So it's not going to be applicable for all, but if you do have the applicable workspace, please just note that. So the February update is quite important for this reason and for the previous slide. And then we've got an update on Copilot and AI. So the Copilot is now support is available in Power BI mobile apps for both Android and for Apple. And this was initially introduced for phones on November 2024. And yeah, sorry, my voice. And then just tap your Copilot button in the report header, and then you're going to see you've got a Copilot chain here, and you can choose whether you want to receive a summary or you want to uncover some insights on your data. And then based on your response, you can copy, share, or continue interacting with your data. And then the suggestions at the bottom of the screen help you refine your requests or create new ones. So the Copilot, as Microsoft is pushing the use of Copilot, it's just going to have introduced another way to interact with your data. And then together with that Copilot update, there's a thing that the show reasoning is now updated. It's going to now say how Copilot arrived at this. Sorry, so you're going to see how Copilot arrived at this. And then, sorry, it's just popping up here. So you can also see if you click on the field or the measure, you're going to see in which home table it is located and what the aggregation is of that measure. So it does give you some more context, because you could have something that's got similar names, but it's similar in different tables. So it's just assisting you. Sorry. Okay, and then I think the biggest update this month that we had is that we've got conditional format support for visual calculations. There is at the end of the slide there is a QR code and a link that does cover it a bit more in detail, so you can try it out yourself. But useful feature if you are using visual calculations to get a conditional format going. And then the published the web support for the Azure Map visuals. This is also coming soon. And then once it is available, sorry, my mouse is acting up here, and then you can just use this embed code here, and then it's going to work in the service. Like there. So this is coming soon. And then this is also a big update where you can edit your semantic models live with direct, like in Power BI desktop. And then there is a 50% improvement as per Microsoft on there. There's a QR code and the link where you can click more details on this, on how to actually do it. So due to time constraints, we're not going to do that, but very useful if you're using direct, like in Fabric. And then 2 connectors were updated this month for Snowflake and for Vertica. So that's also useful if you do use that as a data source for that update. And then there were some third-party visuals that were updated, Zoom charts, PowerVis, and Echo Master Data. That's got numerous updates that you can read through as well. And then the one-lake catalog is available in Microsoft Teams. So you just go to your Power BI icon, you go to Workspaces, then you go to one lake at the top, and it's going to have all your different works artifacts that's listed there. And then there's the links to the different topics that we discussed. So that's the update. There's the Power BI community where you can ask questions. This is the link to update or download the latest version of Power BI. And then there's the link to get more information about the visual calculations for the conditional formatting. And that's the news for Power BI for this month.
Nice. JP, thank you for that. Yeah, interesting month, February, because, well, it comes before March, and March is the Las Vegas FabCon. And so I think they're holding quite a few new features to announce on the big screen, on the big stage, I should say. So, I mean, you still had some decent stuff to show off. So thank you for that, JP. But I do think next month there'll be much more. And then also just I'm observing the chat messages. So just to respond to a few of those. Firstly, Anthony Katela, I met you at FabCon in Sweden. He's a South African. I think you're based in the UK, aren't you? Anyway, welcome to our event. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Yeah, I'm not sure if you on mute.
No, anyway, I've unmuted. It's a very muddy. Well, we've got that rare sunshine, which is very rare.
Okay.
But it's been very wet. Yeah, we did. We had a chat at FabCon in Sweden. So
yeah.
Always good to jump on and hear fellow Saffers, I must say. So. Yeah,
absolutely. Anyway, welcome and thank you for joining. And then also, Hendrik, you've got a couple of questions. So look, Copilot is actually a premium feature, and there's a number of ways in which you can get premium, but Copilot only works with, shall we say, proper premium. Okay, so premium per user, it doesn't work. The embedded capacity premium doesn't work. So it's only the P or F premium that works. Although that said, there are one or two Copilot features that either just initially are free, anyone can use, but invariably you have to have a workspace that's backed by a Copilot subscription. Although I'm also jumping the gun, it's currently via a P or F SKU for Copilot, but soon they will be announcing an actual Copilot subscription so that it makes it easier to use, but it still will not be cheap, which is unfortunate for South Africans on our third world currency. But nonetheless, let's see what they do when they bring out the new pricing model. But Hendrik, that's obviously then to answer why it's difficult to use Copilot. It's because they've obviously invested a lot into it, and it's a premium feature. All right, JP, thanks again for that. Cailin, are you ready to rock and roll? I'll admit people while you're presenting, so thank you for doing it up until now. Yeah.
Perfect, no worries. I'm going to just try and share my screen now. Just let me know when you guys can see it. Taking a little bit of time.
And yeah, got it.
Okay. Let me just go to the actual slides. Okay, perfect. So before I jump into the Fabric news, something that I saw there, JP, from your news as well on the Copilot functionality was that at the moment it doesn't consider any of the applied filters on a specific screen when it does its analysis or gives an overview, which can be quite dangerous if you have statistics or metrics that you're then making business decisions off of, and it's actually not based on a filtered subset of that data. So that's just something I think to very clearly highlight and take note of. If you are making use of Copilot, there could be some dangerous insights if you're not careful with how you're applying that. But needless to say, that's my 2 cents. I'm going to jump into the Fabric news. And as Sven mentioned, there's very little that they have published this month in terms of new things happening on Fabric as per that conference that's coming up. But I did find 3 things that I thought would be quite interesting. So the first is a platform feature. So on the 24th of Feb, so very recently, Microsoft launched a new platform feature called Fabric Quotas. So it's basically designed to control resource governance for the acquisition of your Microsoft Fabric capabilities. So the idea that they've had with this is to try to help customers ensure that their resources are used efficiently, and then to also help manage the overall performance and reliability of the Azure platform to prevent misuse. So what they were seeing is quite a few kind of zones that had to be balanced appropriately. So this is going to help them do that. But yeah, I have got a link there if you would like to go to the blog and actually read a little bit more about how you can see how this happens and how this could be applicable to you. But yeah, this was quite a new feature. Then there was just some general Fabric features. So these are no longer in preview. So they moved from preview to general availability in the latter part of January, early beginning of Feb. So the first one is real-time intelligence, ALM and REST API is now in general availability mode. So basically it allows application lifecycle management and Fabric REST APIs for all RTI items. So event stream, event house, KQL database, real-time dashboard, query set, and data activator. So that's quite nice in the sense that ALM helps now include both deployment pipelines and Git integration. So this is really fantastic for source control management. And the REST APIs obviously allow you to programmatically create, read, update, or delete items in Fabric. So this is quite a nice implementation specifically for the software developers out there, or if you're working within a software development environment and making use of source control. The second is warehouse restore points and restore in place. So basically you can now create these restore points and perform an in-place restore of a warehouse to a past point in time. So it's basically an essential part of data warehouse recovery, and it allows you to restore this warehouse to a prior known reliable state by replacing or overwriting that thing. So this is quite nice. I have got links here, as you can see, to those specific portions where you can actually go and almost implement a tutorial on this and play around with how to do it. So if you are currently working with this, or you need to integrate some kind of source control or backup recovery mechanism for data warehousing, this is a great new feature that they've released now. So yeah, those are the main 3 things that have been implemented or discussed this month. It's not too much, but it is quite beneficial if you are using these types of aspects of Fabric. Awesome, that's my news.
Thank you, Cailin. Are there any questions from the audience for both JP and Cailin? All right, just maybe a comment from my side. I'm obviously a very, very big fan of Power BI, so I know a lot about Power BI. I spend a lot of time researching it. I still obviously am newish to Fabric, and so when Cailin does the news and there's all these big words and whatever, you know, I sometimes feel intimidated, and perhaps others in the user group would feel the same. May I just suggest to you that don't feel intimidated. Obviously, Fabric is a very, very large set of functionality, all wrapped together as software as a service platform, and just go and take it piece by piece. You know, so if it is that you're more data engineering side of things, then look there. If you're more data science, then look in that area. If you're more of a data analyst, then look in a different area, and then slowly but surely just sort of start to expand to different sections. Okay, don't feel that you have to be like black belt at everything. I don't think that person actually exists. So just take it one step at a time, and just obviously keep attending user group events, community events, read blog posts, obviously website, plenty of web content as well. Okay, cool. In which case, now we move over to the main topic, which is going to be run by Vusi. Vusi, thank you again for joining us. I know you've been unwell the last few days, so thank you for soldiering on. And I hand it over to you now. If you're welcome to take over. Thanks.
All right, thank you, Sven. Once again, greetings to everyone. So I will be speaking to you guys about the DAX query view today. Give me a second. Let me just share my screen. Please do let me know when you can see it.
Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Okay, cool. As I did mention that I'll be speaking to you guys about DAX query view today. First things first, I thought maybe it would be nice to just get a refresher of where everything comes from. So basically just speak about the mother of the DAX query view, which is DAX himself or herself. So a DAX data analysis expressions is a formula language used in Power BI, Excel, and analysis services to create custom calculations on data models. So DAX is actually just similar to Excel formulas, but it is optimized for for working with relational data and aggregations, as we all know that on Power BI we have semantic models and tables that have got relationships with multiple different other tables. So DAX is well suited for handling all the operations and the needs to query the data in the Power BI semantic models. Moving on to the key features of DAX, we've got 4 of them that I've listed here today: calculated columns, measures, aggregations, and time intelligence. So with calculated columns, this is where you create new columns in a table based off of existing data. So essentially, when the data comes through, say maybe there's a column that you need, or for some reason it's not on the model, or you need a custom column because you need to combine 2 columns or whatever it is, that's where calculated columns come in. And then we've got the measures. These ones perform calculations dynamically based on user interactions. So I do think that is self-explanatory. And then we've got aggregations. These are your sums, averages, and counts. Basically anything that you can use to do calculations for collections, for the lack of a better word. And then we've got the time intelligence. So with time intelligence, that's where we work with dates. Essentially, you've got your, for example, year to date, previous month, moving averages, and everything of that sort. Right. And then now on to the DAX query view itself. So this is a tool in Power BI that we use to write and execute DAX queries. So in short, this helps us to analyze, debug, and explore data models. That's the big chunk of how to explain what DAX query view is. All right. And then now for some details about DAX query view. It was first released in November 2023. And then I think it was released again or made public, if I'm not mistaken, in December, and that's when it came out with a few more features than it initially had when it came out. I just don't have those with me right now. Okay, not on my notes. Okay, fine. So DAX query view is available to premium capacity users only. So if you are Power BI Pro or Power BI Desktop, you will not be able to access DAX query view. So basically, it's for the Fabric guys. Right.
Wait, Vusi, sorry, are you saying that based on the November 2023, or is that your comment for right now? Because so I'm not sure I understand you.
This is from November 2023. I'm not sure what it looks like now, but from when it came out. Yeah. No,
the answer there is it is available in Power BI Desktop, and it's available across all the platforms. So it isn't premium only anymore.
Okay. Thank you, Sven, for that. Okay, moving right along. DAX query view. Okay. What was life like before the DAX query view? Because it is a new feature that a lot of people, relatively new, that a lot of people are excited about because of the things that it brings forward. But what was it like before people had it? So we had limited debugging options. So users had to create measures and calculated columns inside visuals to test calculations and stuff like that, which made debugging very slow and inefficient. So any errors or unexpected results in reports, iterating through reports instead of running direct queries. And then the next point is that there was no direct table queries. So on this one, users relied on visuals like tables and matrices to inspect data. There wasn't really a way to write ad hoc queries to explore datasets dynamically. And then moving on to the next point, we've got external tools were required. So some of you guys might remember we've had to use tools like DAX Studio, which is an external tool that you have to install. It doesn't necessarily come pre-installed with Power BI. You have to install it and set it up to work in tandem with your Power BI. Or if not DAX Studio, it's Excel pivot tables. So all of these added like extra steps to the workflow and just slow things down. And then lastly, we've got slow development processes. So without a dedicated query interface, users had to constantly switch between modifying measures and refreshing visuals to validate results. So I know for a fact that that was a pain for me in multiple cases. So yeah, moving on to what we have, or what does DAX Query View bring to us? So the first thing is a dedicated query environment. So we can now write and execute DAX queries directly within Power BI, which is similar to SQL queries in a database. So those who have worked with SQL Server Management Studios and the likes, they know how easy and how efficient it is when you can just query on the spot and you get your results and everything that you need. And then the interface also allows for direct evaluation of tables and measures without the need for visuals. So having visuals is nice and all, but when you're doing testing and trying to explore data, it can be limiting and it can slow things down. So, which is why it is very beneficial to have something that is already integrated to your model and everything that you're working with. And then the next point is efficient debugging and testing. So Power BI developers on this point, they can define variables and test measures and expect and inspect results in real time. And errors can be caught early before changes to reports are made, which is a bonus. And then we've got faster data exploration. I think this is sort of the sentiment here has been captured in the last two, but in terms of faster data exploration, instead of having to create the unnecessary tables and visuals and sometimes slicers to slice and dice and analyze your data, you just have the queries that you write and they just give you the data that you need, and you confirm what you need to confirm on the spot, and it makes life very easy. And then lastly, we've got seamless workflow. So in this one, there's no need for external tools like DAX Studio or pivot tables, sometimes your Bravo. Everything is just done in Power BI itself. And this just makes agility more impossible and easier to achieve. So in essence, DAX View has made DAX Query View has made DAX development more efficient, interactive, and intuitive. And this has made DAX development more efficient, interactive, and intuitive. It eliminates the need for unnecessary visuals, and it provides better debugging and streamlines the workflow for developers, and just improves productivity. So that is the quick intro. Right now, we are going to move into the demo section of my presentation. Right. So at first I thought of how I'm going to speak about the DAX query view and where do I start essentially. And the best way for me was, let me just start with having a table and just run it through Performance Analyzer, and we have a quick query that we can work with, right? So in this case, we've got this table. So if, say, for instance, you want to create a query based off of a certain data model that you have, it is much wiser or easier to just create a table firstly on Power BI. As you can see that we've got this table here, or rather the matrix, and then just throw in there the measures and the columns that you need, and you go to Performance Analyzer, which is under Optimize. You start recording and then refresh visuals. So on this pane here, you're going to see the different items that are on the page. But at the moment, there's only one item, which is the matrix, which is what we're seeing here. So if you click on it, you can just come here and copy the query, which you're going to use in the DAX query view, or you can just click here and it automatically opens a page for you in DAX query view. And this is the query that is generated from that table that we're seeing up there. And here is an example of that table down here. So when you run a query from a table, what Power BI does is it collects all the measures that you have used, measures and columns and whatnot that you have used on the reporting view that do affect the table that you brought in. For instance, we brought in that matrix, so every filter that is affecting that matrix is also going to be accounted for when you bring it this side. For instance, these are some of the filters that we had up there, and they were also brought into this side. And these are the columns and the columns that we had, and this is where it applies the different filters that that are defined in these variables up here. And then this is one of the measures that I had on the table above. Right. So one beautiful thing about the DAX query view is that it gives you the ability to explore the data set itself. So it kind of goes an extra mile from what you can do on the table view, because on the table view you can just view one table at a time, but here you can do multiple different calculations and just get a combination of tables and create in quotes views to just get the data or what it is that you need for that particular report you are working on. So for instance, you can just come here in any one of these tables under quick queries. It gives you the top 100 rows of that table. I found this feature to be very useful when I'm trying to understand the data, because in as much as yes, it's giving you the table that has 100 records, you can still modify this script. You can still modify it to your liking and tailor it to what your needs are. I found it more specifically helpful when I don't know how many of you have been thrown with a thin file and you have to go through, you have to build a report using the thin file and you don't necessarily know what's in the data or how the data is structured and stuff like that. So because of the DAX query view, you can be able to explore the different tables that you have. Yes, the thin file does not have the table view. So this is a win in that regard. I wanted to show you some other features. Please bear with me. I'm just going through my notes here. Okay, cool. One other feature that is nice is that you can modify measures from here, from the DAX query view. So for instance, I did create a measure that I could use for testing purposes. So you just go to define and evaluate, and then it shows you the definition of your measure right here. So the moment you start changing the measure, how the measure is defined, for instance, if I were to remove that R over there, you're going to see this pop up right here. And the moment you click on this, it's going to update the measure from the model, which I find pretty cool. But for now, we're not going to go forward with that. As I was saying, you can make measure modifications from here, and I think this is helpful when you're trying to create multiple measures that have the same definition but slightly vary, and you can just copy and paste, and everything is just created here instead of having to create measures one by one. Right. Moving on to one of my favorite features, because it has helped me quite a lot lately. So that is the integration with, not necessarily an integration, but how you can use it to benefit you when you're working on paginated reports with the report builder. So if we can go back to the query that we started with, this query has a whole table, right? And let's say, for example, I need this table as it is, or these columns as they are on a paginated report. You can just copy this as it is, and 1 second. You can just copy that as it is, and then you bring it here. Let me just do that. Copy. And then you create a new data set. I'm going to leave it as data set 2. And that's the data source, which is the same data source as the model where I copied the script from. So you're just going to paste the query here, and okay. So what's nice about this is that it processes it in real time, and if there's something wrong with your query, it's going to tell you immediately. And yeah, so all these are the measures, or the fields that were brought through by that column. So when you're working with the report builder, it tends to be, what I've realized in my personal experience is that it tends to be buggy from time to time. For example, it would cache some stuff that you have built into the model. For instance, if you have a filter and then later on you remove the filter, somehow it's almost as if that filter that you have removed is now cached. And even though you do remove the filter, when you do some testing and stuff, you find that your numbers are not adding up. So what has helped me and saved me was copying that very same script and bringing it here, or if I have not modified it, or just come here and run this based off of what is being filtered, because the paginated report has its own filters and stuff. So I would have to create the variables up here for the filters, and then apply those filters, make sure that it is similar, and see where my my numbers are not matching up. So I think that is, yeah, I think that's it for my demo. So now just to finish off with the last feature for the day, it is Copilot. So Copilot is something that is big at the moment, because I believe we are in the age of AI, and everything tech-wise is just revolving around AI. So the Copilot preview was released in November 2023. Unfortunately, it is also not available to everyone, and it is only currently available to Power BI Premium or Premium per user capacity users. So if I were to go back to here, so if you would see this icon right here, this is where you would go to create your queries, or to add to start interacting with Copilot, and to get to give you the results that you're looking for. So this is helpful when maybe you need maybe a rather long query and you don't have the time to type it down. So you just write here what it is that you're looking for, and it's going to type it for you. Only problem is you just need to be very specific of what it is you are looking for. So as you saw up there, this box is going to show up, and you're going to type here what it is that you want from the query, and it's going to give you it's sort of like a pop-up. It shows you what the script is going to look like depending on what you have inputted. Then you have the choice to keep it or delete it. But then if you do keep it because you want it, it's going to take that script and run it, and it's going to look something like this, as you did see up there. So I think, yeah, that's it from me today. Any questions?
Hi, Vusi, and hi, Sven.
Yes.
Hi,
Hi,
sorry, I
Cailin.
can't see who's speaking.
Is that Adonis? Go ahead, Adonis.
Yes, it's Adonis, and hi, everyone. First of all, I'd like to say thanks for the presentation, Vusi. I think it's gonna be very much helpful for myself because of the project that I'm currently working on. So I've got like 2 reports built by 2 different people. One based on a SQL database, and the other one based on CSV extract. So now I've been going through these reports, like trying to analyze what's the difference, because the tables are not the same, even though they are both based on, I would say, the same data set. Because the other one, actually, the CSV file is actually more like a customized report, whereas on the SQL, you've got basically the whole underlying data. So yeah, I think what you just presented is gonna be very much helpful in actually blending the two reports. So just what I wanted to find out from you is there any other easier way of blending two different reports, or basically this is my way to go?
If I'm understanding you correctly, by blending two reports, you mean having data from two different data sources essentially and bring them into one.
Yes, and basically there are also quite a lot of visuals, which probably I'll have to build from scratch.
Oh, I see. Is that what you mean? Okay. So you've got two different report files, and you want to try and get them together into one.
Yeah.
Okay. That isn't anything to do with the DAX query view. In fact, the other new view is the Tyndall view, which is still in preview, but that is that's a more suited solution for you, or the functionality that came about last year sometime, the PBIP or the PBIR methodology. So it breaks the file into different sections. Okay, so you can then go to the section that deals with all the pages, and then you can copy the page definition from your one file into the other file. So that is more of the solution that you should use. Of course, the old way of doing it was literally create a new page in report number 2, copy the visuals, Control A from the one thing to the other one and copy it across. But that's very painful because it also doesn't take the filter pane across. So you do want to use the PBIP option or the Tyndall view. And if you Google those, you'll see that it has become, it's not super easy, but it's certainly much easier than it used to be. And you can copy one page across to another file. The data source, you'd still have to bring that across in Power Query from the one file to the other file.
Okay, wonderful, thanks.
Okay, are there any other questions? I actually was saying something when Vusi ended, but I didn't realize I was still on mute. And basically then just to say that I wasn't sure if we were still going to have time left over. So I did prepare something in case we had a few minutes spare. So if there aren't questions, I can run through that. It is linked to Vusi's presentation. But if there are questions, let's cover those first. All right, if not, then I'll share my screen. Basically, first of all, thank you again, Vusi, for that. I want to basically just take it one step further, or maybe even just describe some background information. So Vusi was talking about the DAX query view, so that's it over here. And you know, some of us have been using DAX for a long time, you know, writing DAX measures, for instance, but you might not realize that queries are happening all the time, DAX queries. It's actually anytime a user interacts with a report, a DAX query runs to, you know, the Vertipack engine and brings back the answers and puts it on the page. Okay, so DAX queries are happening all the time. Now, Vusi showed you that you can run Performance Analyzer. Sorry, wrong button. Performance Analyzer, and then get the queries from here. But actually, you can also write the queries yourself if you either buy a textbook from the Italians, you know, the Definitive Guide to DAX, that kind of story. So for over the years, I've been writing my own DAX queries. I find I'm not a programmer, I'm not a developer in that sense, but I do find it somewhat challenging to do it. So over the years, I have sort of put together some little things to help, and I thought I would just share those. So the first thing I've done is on this page, I've got 3 tables. Okay, the one I've written here, totals, but no filters, totals and filters, and then no totals, no filters. Now you might think that's very strange, but the reason why I did that is because if you want to extract, let's just say you want this output in Excel, okay, then you need to get the DAX query behind it, okay? And if you don't know how to write it, you can cheat by using Performance Analyzer, but there's some tips and tricks, because if you've got totals, it just makes the query a little bit messier. It's not a problem, it just makes it messier. So I did 3 variations here, okay, just to show you that this one has got no filters, this one has got 2024 and accessories as a filter, and then this one has got no totals, no filters. So when I ran the performance analyzer and I put them into the query view, here's the first one, totals and filters. Now let's just have a look here. Vusi also did show this, and I mean, if you just look at this first off, you're like, wow, what is all this stuff? Okay, but it's actually not as scary as you think. So I'm going to start with the easiest of all three of them, okay, which is no totals or filters. Okay, so what it's doing is it's doing an evaluate of a particular table, and then the table is generated through some variables, okay. And it looks a bit scary, like what is all of that and what is that, and like funny words and whatever. It's just what what Power BI does in the background to generate the query. But basically what it's doing is it's creating a table of those two columns and those two measures, okay? And whenever it visualizes it on the page, it does the top 500 so that it doesn't take, if you've got 1 million rows, it's not going to put them all here in one shot and take 2 minutes to load the visual. So all it's doing then is it's loading the top 501, okay, and then it's evaluating that, and it's sorting it by item name and item group name. So there's still an easier way to write all of this, but this is what DAX query, the performance analyzer does for you. But notice no totals or filters, okay. If I go one step more complicated, okay, this one is totals but no filters. So now suddenly there's this roll up, add is subtotal and is grand total row. So as long as you realize that comes about, if you've got a visual like this with the totals on it, the query needs to return all the rows and the totals. So that's why it introduces this little piece here, okay? And so it's very similar to the previous query. It just adds in the total, and then it does, you know, my 2 columns and the sales volume, and then it just also includes this piece from up here to do the grand total. So, and then the final one is obviously just building from that. There it is. Okay, so so now I've got filters on there. So first of all, it's got the first variable is the filter onto accessories, and then the second variable is the filter onto 2024. Then it's got the the totals, and then it outputs the result. So if it is that you're trying to get this table into Excel and you put it on the page and you do performance analyzer, it's going to take into account the filters that you've used, and if you've got totals. So whenever I need an output in Excel, I actually don't want the filters on, almost, you know, I'd rather put a slicer on there in Excel and filter it that way. And I also don't want the total because it just makes my DAX query a bit messy. So I can actually copy this query and put it into Excel. So that is this one. Okay, now that's it. They wrote it, but I have learned to write it over time with some tricks. And so let me just quickly show you that super quickly. So here's, to my mind, easier than performance analyzer. I'm not doing all the variables and, you know, all that sort of stuff. It literally is evaluates. Now, don't forget, and in fact, I didn't mention it, the DAX queries have a whole lot of other DAX functions that most of the time, whenever you're writing measures, you don't normally use, including things like add columns, summarize columns, or summarize, and there are many, many more, okay? But anyway, you should get into a habit of writing this kind of stuff. It's actually not complicated. I'll explain it in a minute further below. But if I run that, okay, I get, sorry, I'm just trying to get to that. I get the table, okay. Now I could also go sales amount. I can put the name in there, that sort of stuff. Then just obviously just the super easy one, evaluate products table. So that's the products table. And then there were some other examples in the textbooks that evaluate, and then you can say, you can take the products table, and then in the products table, or next to the products table, I should say, you can add a column which is called sales amount, and it's going to use the sales amount measure. So if I run that one, I'm going to get that one over there. So that's okay, but to be honest, I'm sorry, we're out of time. So I'm just going to literally just show you that once you get into a habit of a pattern, it actually works pretty nicely, pretty easily. So evaluate. So the one I use the most, okay, and by the way, I've read the articles. The Italians, as they normally do, Rosso and Ferrari, that they write very, very long articles. And the first half, you're like, cool, I'm with it. And then the bottom half, you're like, I don't know what you're talking about anymore. Anyway, and then at the bottom of the one article, they were working with Jeffrey Wang, who's the inventor of DAX. And they were also like sitting there all confused because some of this DAX query stuff is actually even complicated for the Italians. Okay, so I wrote myself a few little notes. Okay, sorry, I'm just trying to get there. And okay, so this is a bit longer than I really wanted to share because it's a bit over the top. But first of all, if you want the URL, okay, go and read that. Control copy, chat. Okay, whoopsie, chat. The first half is great. The second half is hectic. Okay. But what it really comes down to is if you get into this pattern, okay, so if you want to output an answer in Excel or in any sort of third-party application that wants to use your data model and output a table, obviously you have to start with evaluate, and then there are multiple ways, but the easiest one for me is summarize columns, and then it goes with a pattern, okay? So it takes call it your group by, meaning your dimensions. So I want item description, column number 1. I want column number 2 is calendar year. Now I'm using these through my relationships and all of my dimensions, and I can obviously add 3 or 5 or 10 columns, no problem. Okay, so the first, you can have as many columns as you want, but then part 2. So part 1 is the list of columns. Part 2 is any filters that you have. So now after my second column or my 10th column, I can put comma, filter the calendar equals 2024, comma, filter the sales reps equal Angelina Jolie, and it's misspelled on purpose. And then part 3 is any columns of measures that you want. You can have 1 or more. So there are really 3 parts to summarize columns. The columns that you want, then any filters, and then the measured columns. So if I run this and run it, I've got column 1, column 2, and my sales amount for Angelina Jolie. Okay. And like I said, more filters, more columns, more measures, no problem. It just goes into that pattern. Okay. And that's where I'd like to leave it on that, because there are other ways of doing it, and there are all sorts of things which I sort of documented for myself, but it can get complicated. So just read that article. I think that helps. Okay. And we're on 6 o'clock now. Please, before you rush, I do want to just quickly give you a few more URLs. Let's minimize that. Okay, so the first one is, don't forget, since November, we now have a GitHub repository. So at the moment, it has November's event and January's event. In the next couple of days, you will see the content for February's event in here. So that's cool. What I also did is I put in there the meetup link and the YouTube channel and the Fabric community group. So all 3 of the stuff is in there. So that's the GitHub repository. Then please, guys, take 2 minutes and just fill in the survey, please. Tell us if you want to volunteer for a presentation. Tell us if you think it was good or bad. Tell us if you have a topic you want to suggest. But that's the survey. And then the last thing is, Global Power Platform Bootcamp. That is on Saturday. Registration did close last night, although you can still walk in on the morning. It starts at 8 at Microsoft on Saturday morning. That's this Saturday. And you can walk in. In fact, what's his name? Michael in the chat is presenting. I'm presenting. JP's presenting. There's a channel on, there's a track on Power BI and Fabric. Then there's a track on Power Automate, Power Apps, Power Pages. There's plenty of that sort of stuff. So what have you just posted there? Events.schedule okay, cool. Michael, is that your user group on a first Tuesday of each month? That story?
No, this is your event on Saturday.
Oh, okay. So I was just looking at. Oh, yeah, fine. It says Josie Pug. Quite right. Well, it's not my event. I'm one of the many organizers, but it's the Power BI user group. It's the Josie Power App user group. They call themselves Josie Pug. Okay. All right. And then the very last thing I just wanted to say is I did notice quite a few people's new names here. So if you are new, may I ask you, just help me, just put your hand up. I just want to know of the list, because there were the names that I didn't recognize all of them, and I'm always just curious to know. So so just roughly, just put your hand up if you are new, it's your first event that you've been to. Okay, so I've got 3. Okay, now I got 7. Okay, all right, so quite a few. All right, that's great. Like I said, please fill in the survey. Cailin and I look through it. We want to make sure that the events, obviously we've got to cater for beginners, intermediate, and advanced users. Sometimes it's advanced, sometimes it's beginner content, but we are always looking forward to feedback. All right, that's it. I think we must wrap up there. Unless there are any more questions, you're welcome to quickly ask if there is anything. Okay. All right. In which case, thank you again to all the speakers.